I'm Jay Jones, and I'd like to address the situation that happened in Jacksonville, Florida this past Saturday. As of recording, it is Monday, August 27th, 2018. Um, as you know, many were injured, many were killed, a few were killed, many were injured, and including the suspect. He was in a gaming tournament for a football gaming tournament, Madden NFL 19, um, which raises a lot of questions about the gaming community altogether. And it puts in perspective what I think about video games and what many other people think about video games, and how this could affect people, in the long run. Um, the thing about video games is that it can affect many people in many ways. See, I game for multiple reasons. One, it's a stress reliever. Two, I love playing games. Three, I love broadcasting games that I've never played before to you, including or playing games that I have played before a lot, and just having my own unique reaction to something that someone else has played 1,000 times before. And on a lot of levels, I find that gaming is more beneficial than detrimental in my standpoint. I think that the gaming community as a whole has had this entire horrible stigma of, oh, we're just a bunch of gamers that like to shelter ourselves in our basements or our garages or our rooms or what have you, and we don't want to talk to people. That's not the case. As you know, I'm a very public person. Like, I usually don't have much to hide, and I go out and do things live, in different places that you wouldn't see someone else like me be at. So it stands to reason that not all gamers are the same. Yes, there are the stereotype gamers out there, but again, it's a stereotype. It's the same it's kind of like making a stereotype for black people. It's like making a stereotype for white people. It's like making a stereotype for accountants, doctors, lawyers, attorneys, people in the media, etc., etc. It's a stereotype. And I think the gaming culture has evolved in the past 30 plus years to where it's not just a bunch of kids or whoever stuck in their basement just, not talking to human beings. This whole social stigma of video games of people playing video games is outdated, and quite frankly and quite simply is antiquated. It's ridiculous to use that same assumption today. The thing about video games is that, one, we should never penalize the creator unless they make something illegal. Otherwise, if they're expressing their art form in their way on their game, they aren't the ones that need to be penalized. Parents need to step in and need to know what games are suitable for what children. There's a reason why the ESRB exists. There's a reason there are ratings on TV shows. There's a reason the MPAA exists. Like, these things are there for parents to know when and where, or when and what games their kids should or shouldn't play. And we shouldn't put it on the game developer to always make a game that's rated E for everyone, that everyone can play, that's educational, that's inviting. And because there are already games like that. Like, if you stuck to one genre of gaming, it would be a very, very boring society. And so, on that note, we shouldn't punish our developers for making something that you can't determine is not suitable for your child. Then it goes down to the other rabbit hole of, well, what about guns? Look, I could sit here and do an hour, a J. Jones Live episode worth of why guns are stupid, why this, that, and the other, or why guns are great, or anything like that. I could argue one way or the other. But we also have the one thing that we need to address and needs to be addressed big time is that esports, like any other sport, is becoming popular, and there needs to be security. Period. You do it at a concert, you do it at a football game, you do it at a basketball game, you do it at tennis or baseball or soccer or swimming or any other type of event like that. The same should apply to esports. Whether you like it or not, whether you think it's cool or not, whether you think it's gonna take off or not, it's an event that needs security. For example, the Overwatch League brought thousands to the Barclays Center in New York City. What, you think that they didn't have any security there? Of course they did. You know why? Because the Barclays Center is a big venue. The Barclays Center is a venue that hosts events that need security so that people are safe. It doesn't matter if it's an Overwatch League Grand Finals match or fucking SummerSlam or a basketball game or volleyball or whatever goes on in the Barclays Center. There's security in there. The same goes for any gaming tournament. There needs to be security. Now, I have stated numerous times in the past my stance on guns. Here's my thing, and I will state it again. If you're a responsible person with a gun, if you use guns responsibly, if you do nothing wrong with guns, you take the certain precautions that you need to take, if you do what you need to do with guns that keep us safe, then I have no problems with you. But what I'm so sick of, and I think people are so sick of seeing, is that why does it take a mass tragedy for something to change? Why does it take change within our schools to make them safer? Why does it take change within different events to upgrade security policies? Why does it have to happen this way? How many times have I sat here and said those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it? How many times have I sat here and told you, the viewer, that guns in the right hands will be responsible. They'll be cool. But someone going to a video gaming tournament or any type of tournament, whatever it may be, there needs to be security. They need to check for bags. This needs to happen, no matter how you feel about what event is going on. And I think that since we don't learn this, because we don't want to acknowledge the fact that this type of shit goes on everywhere, we're going to run into more and more problems like this. And so we find out that the dude had mental health issues. No shit. I could have told you that one. Because seriously, think about that. Like, think about that for a second. Like, someone who has mental health issues, who is too mentally unstable, doesn't matter if they know right or wrong, who may go from one extreme to the other, they need to make sure that they are not near a weapon. And of course, the other argument would be, well, what about knives? What about, other weapons? What about swords? What about all these other things? And I'm like, okay, fine. Sure, whatever. Let's add all those in there. The quickest and most lethal way to do the most harm is guns. Now, of course, people will say that guns don't kill people. People kill people with guns. Correct. But again, we need to realize that people who have mental instabilities, who have never been around a gun, who are near a gun and they know they're mentally unstable and they know that things are like that, know that these things are going to happen, they need to understand that something as powerful and as lethal as a gun should not be in their hands. Period. And of course, there are a lot of arguments to this. There's the argument that people who carry guns are going to be safe, they're going to be responsible, but it draws back to the fear that I've had for the longest time. What if that person snaps? Seriously, what if that person snaps? You can't tell me that someone's just going to sit there and just not go for their gun. You can't. You can't tell me that. And then people are going to say, well, these games create this rage culture and they put too much stock in these games. Here's the thing, though. that is subjective. That ranges from person to person. It's not the same. It's okay. Best example. When I rage at games, it's that game. Once that game is over, I'm done with that game. I'm done with that match. I'm done with whatever I'm doing, and I move on. You know, games to me are stimulating. They allow me to let out the anger that I may or may not have. They allow me to have fun. They allow me to engage with other people, to communicate with other people, to make friends with other people. There are a lot of advantages to playing games. None of these are linked to, oh, I'm going to commit violence. Now, granted, Madden NFL has not really a lot of violence in it. It's football, but people will spin the subject around and say, oh, well, if he wasn't playing video games all the time and actually I was hanging out with people, he would have known social norms. I'm like, no. Here's the thing. I have friends in places all over the world. Literally. I've made a ton of friends on video games. I have. And that's not because I'm antisocial. I don't want to make friends in real life. I do make friends in real life. And those people I play games with, who I become friends in those games, I start to become friends in real life. I have friends in my Facebook feed that I interact with in a real life basis. Look back at some of the Locked On Adopt Game Network streams that I've done on Twitch, where I've sat there and had legit interesting conversations with other people playing games. Games do bring us together. And again, this is a rare and very, very, very shocking, very disgusting instance where this guy committed a violent act and committed suicide. I don't know what the guy was struggling with, but instead of always going to, well, we need to ramp up on gun control, and we need to make more bans on video games, or blah 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 blah. What we need to do is have more funding for mental health. Whether you like that opinion or not, it's the truth. If there are red flags, if you're a parent and you see a red flag in a child, whether or not they play video games, a video game is not going to change that red flag. If you don't address it soon, it's going to end up like this 24-year-old that shot people and then killed himself. If you don't address the situation in an early age, this is what's going to happen. Which brings me back all the way to the beginning of this video. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And they will. And it will suck. And I think people need to understand that I'm never going to stop playing video games. Sorry. Thing is, this whole perception of people get too wrapped up in video games, those are the people who make it their life, but don't put aside enough time for other factors like their relationships, their work, whatever. I can tell you now, I know when I need to put down the controller. I do. Like, those who pay less attention to the real world will get further immersed in video games. Those are the people that need to be addressed, and sooner rather than later, because things like this are going to happen. They're going to get so immersed into that game that they're going to think that when they lose that game, they're going to go nuts. Because they're going to think that losing that game is like you losing a job you worked for so long, and there is no reason behind you losing that job. It's going to be like that breakup you didn't expect to happen, but it happened, and it's devastating, and it hurts you, and it just eats at your heart. Those people that lose at those games are going to, those people that lose at those games who put whatever game it is, be it the one that was in Jacksonville or whatever, are going to put so much stock into it that they're going to hate their lives, and they're just not going to do very well. And those are the people that we need to address sooner rather than later. And if we don't do that, we're going to get these assholes that will commit mass murder on tons of human beings, and it's gonna suck. And I'll have to sit here again and make another video on why we should really fucking focus on people with mental health issues. And we need to do that sooner rather than later. Video games, when played in moderation, are great. They have so many advantages. I think we need to stop using the stigma of that video games do not allow social interaction. Quite the opposite. They allow tons of social interaction. Why do you think we have the Overwatch League? Why do you think there are League of Legends tournaments? Why do you think that there was a tournament in Jacksonville for this very reason? People are talking with each other. People are communicating. People are interacting. People are getting out of their houses. People are having fun. There are LAN parties all the time. There are overnight gaming marathons. There's PAX South, PAX West, PAX Prime, all of these gaming conventions. Like, these people aren't just sitting in the basement just playing on their video games and not talking to anyone. They're interacting. They're creating a culture. Look at Ingress and Pokemon Go. They're creating a culture where people are talking to people who are playing the games and are interacting with people because they're being social. They're going out and doing stuff. They're walking around. They're exercising. They're doing all these things, and people just think, oh, well, they're just a bunch of gamers. They're just sitting there just like being lazy and whatever. I'm like, no, that's not what it is. And I hate that this stigma that exists, and it needs to go away. It needs to die. It needs to die a very, very horrible demise. And it needs to die soon. It needs to die sooner rather than later, or we're going to end up in a culture where video games and people who play them are never going to be recognized for their ability, but more of their stereotype. And that's the thing. And we shouldn't have that. It's a stereotype as much as how a black person is stereotyped to never do well in education, who can only do well in sports, things of that nature. It's the same as, white people are probably the majority. They think they're the better people or whatever, superiority complexes or whatever. There are stereotypes all over the place, and this is one of them. Gaming culture has a horrible stigma and a horrible stereotype attached to it. And places and people who stream like me are trying to break that stereotype. And we don't have to say anything towards it to be it. We don't have to say anything to say, hey, we're not that stereotype that you see on the TV. And so we need to stop with these stigmas so we can address the problems that are causing these mass shootings, that are causing these bouts of fits of rage and mass terrorism and suicide and all of this stuff. If we do nothing, nothing will change. And if we don't listen to history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's my opinion on this topic. I want to know what you think in the comments down below. And I mean, you can subscribe. It's not about clickbait. It's more about what I feel. I want this to be a conversation piece. I want us to have a dialogue. I want us to talk about this. And I will have links to different numbers and websites addressing mental health issues and things of that nature, because it needs to happen. Discussion needs to happen. If we do nothing, nothing will happen. And I can't sit here saying that I, with a camera in my iPad, sitting here doing nothing will cause change. If I can at least speak to one voice, maybe that voice can speak to more voices, and so on down the line. Hopefully someone will see this and will invoke change. I'm Jay Jones.